You know that feeling, right? You're standing at a crossroads, totally frozen by all those what ifs. What if I pick the wrong path? What if I'm just not ready for this? Well, today we're going to talk about a way to cut through all that noise and finally start moving forward with confidence.
This is the big one, isn't it? The question that just pops into your head whenever you even think about making a big change, starting something new, or taking a leap of faith. It's those four little words that can stop an amazing idea dead in its tracks. But what if that's not the only question we should be asking?
Because here's the other question, the one that's a little sneakier. What if you actually succeed and it's not at all what you expected? See, it turns out our fear isn't just about failing. It's about the massive, unpredictable unknown. And honestly, that uncertainty can be just as paralyzing as the fear of falling flat on your face. So here's our game plan for getting unstuck. First, we're going to shine a light on the what-if trap. Then we'll get into decoding your fears so you can turn that anxiety into action. After that, we'll build ourselves a risk-reward compass to find our own true north, figure out how to chart a course with small, smart steps, and finally, launch a bolder version of ourselves. Let's dive in. All right, first things first. We have to understand what we're up against. Why do we get so completely stuck when these huge decisions come up? Well, it all starts with something I call the what-if trap. At the very heart of this problem is our comfort zone, and man, is it powerful. Even when we know deep down that we want something more, the idea of a new path is just terrifying. Our brains are literally wired to prefer a predictable, maybe even kind of boring outcome over an unpredictable one that could be absolutely incredible. We'll almost always choose the comfort we know over a possibility we don't. And look, it's not just an internal battle we're fighting. We're often held in place by these invisible handcuffs. You've got societal pressure telling you to take the safe path. You've got the sheer comfort of what's familiar. Then you have your own biases from things that happened in the past, and on top of it all, those endless what-if loops where your anxiety just keeps feeding on itself. It's a lot. So how in the world do we break free from those handcuffs? Well, we start by taking that giant, vague cloud of anxiety and we start breaking it down into something we can actually look at. We have to decode our fears if we want to get back in the driver's seat. Now this is a game changer. You have to learn to separate what's a genuinely risky scenario from what's just a perceived limitation. Real risks are things you can measure, like a specific financial hit or damage to your reputation. Perceived limitations, those are the stories we tell ourselves. Things like, oh, I'm not qualified enough, or people like me don't do that, or the classic, it's too late for me to start. Figuring out the difference between these two is absolutely everything. And here's an incredibly powerful tool to help you do just that. It's called the pre-mortem. So instead of just vaguely worrying about failure, you actively plan for it. Step 1, imagine it's a year from now and this whole thing has failed spectacularly. Step 2, write down every single reason you can think of for why it failed. And then step 3, for each of those reasons, you create a plan to either prevent it or to recover from it. All of a sudden, failure isn't this big monster hiding in the closet, it's just a series of problems you can actually solve. Okay, so now that we've kind of turned our fears into manageable problems, we need a tool to help us actually make the decision. This is where we're going to build a risk-reward compass. Think of it as our guide for navigating these huge life uncertainties. The core of this compass is something called the regret minimization framework. It's a really simple but kind of profound shift in thinking. You stop focusing so much on short-term fear, and you start thinking about long-term fulfillment. The whole goal is to make the choice today that your future self is going to thank you for. This one really gets to the heart of it. I want you to actually do this. Project yourself forward. Picture yourself at 80, looking back on your life. What's going to sting more? The memory of a bold attempt that, maybe didn't work out, or that lingering ghost of a chance you were just too afraid to take? I think for most of us, when it comes to the big stuff, the answer is pretty clear. So how do we put this into practice? First, you get real about quantifying the risks, the financial stuff, the reputational, the emotional toll. But then, and this is key, you have to really unpack the rewards. And I'm not just talking about money here. I'm talking about personal growth, finding a sense of purpose, making an impact, all the things you'll learn along the way. Then the final question is pretty simple. Are those rewards more valuable than the risks you now know how to manage? Okay, so the decision is starting to feel a bit clearer. But the path forward, well, it still looks like a giant, terrifying leap off a cliff.
This next part is all about turning that leap into a series of small, totally manageable steps. Listen, you do not have to quit your job and move across the country tomorrow. That's not the idea. The idea is to break down your big what if into little tests or micro experiments. Can you take a weekend class in that thing you're curious about? Can you try freelancing a little on the side? These low stakes trials give you priceless information without forcing you to risk everything all at once.
And while you're running these little experiments, you're also building your safety net. See, this isn't about being reckless. It's about being prepared. This means stuff like having a financial buffer, really leaning on your professional network, building up your own emotional resilience for the tough days, and finding mentors or friends who can keep you accountable. A safety net is what makes taking that bolder path truly possible. And that brings us to our final piece of the puzzle. Taking a bolder path in life isn't a one-time choice you make and then you're done. It's a mindset. It's something you practice. It really is a journey. This is the ultimate reframe you have to make. Setbacks are going to happen. It's just inevitable. But they are not failures. They are data points. That's all they are. They tell you what to adjust, what to change, where you need to pivot. And every single time you learn from one of those setbacks or you celebrate a tiny little win, you are building momentum. You're adapting and you're evolving on your path. So, after all this, the question isn't really if you should take a bolder path. The real question is, what's your first step? Your first tiny, totally manageable step. It doesn't have to be some giant leap, just a single step forward. What's yours going to be?